Hi, welcome to the coaching game. I am so thrilled tonight to have a person who was on my show, and I didn't really think I knew her when she was on the show. It's like, but I got to hear her story. Cheryl Friscia. Cheryl, hey, how you doing?
Hi,
And
from Florida.
as I was telling her, it's a little cold and gloomy here, but we have hopes that is coming at some point to New York City. I'm Laurie Lawson, and I am so pleased to say that as a result, and you know what? It wasn't even as a result of the show because that was 7 years ago, but somehow Cheryl and I got back together, and just as she was taking off for a new adventure, we're going to talk about that because she is a venture lady. Um, we became friends, and it was like, oh no, don't leave now. But we've managed to stay in touch. And I thought, and Cheryl agreed, there have been so many changes in her life, and I'm sure in all of ours in 7 years. But we want to talk about how do you make those transitions? How do you make the decisions that get you where you want to go? Or maybe you don't know where you want to go, but you end up in a cool place. And that's kind of what Cheryl's done for at least the last 7 years. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Cheryl, tell us, 7 years ago, where were you? Yeah, I know you were in New York City, and I know you were on my show, but where were you in from a personal standpoint?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. It was actually almost 10 years ago. It was 2015 when I moved into the city. And we did our first show in your studio in
What
Manhattan.
is wrong? What was wrong with my math? I knew it was like
Very,
15.
very
And I'm going,
exciting.
oh, a good 7 years. No, no, she's
But
absolutely right. 10 years.
so yes, I was in a very different place in my life. I had just moved into New York City. And a big part of that decision was, I had been dealing with an illness and I was living up in Connecticut. And, most of the time I was working down in the New York, New Jersey area and decided that, I needed to make change in my life. I was dedicated to managing my illness. And, with that, it meant taking care of my health and relieving some of the stress of commuting. And because I was commuting 2 hours each way into Manhattan and New Jersey to work. So yes, I was in a very different place, and Manhattan was it was such a wonderful place to reinvent my life again. And, it was very exciting. It was just a really exciting time. So I'm excited to be back. So much change has happened in the last 10 years. Um, don't know where you want me to start. We have lots to talk about.
So much. We're gonna have to have Cheryl Friscia part two. I don't know, but we'll see. 'Cause she's constantly on the move here. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to keep up with her. You know what I'm interested in because 2024 for me was like a year of reckoning health-wise. It was like, oh, I have this, and oh, I got to do this. And how did you prioritize your health? And keep working and move for gosh sakes. I just stopped dead still and went, okay, my health comes first, and I will do whatever else on this side. How did you prioritize? Because you were juggling all these balls. How did you prioritize?
So the first thing was the move into New York. I knew that doing a 2 hour commute each way was affecting my health. I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was on the train into Manhattan. I was there by, 7:30 in the morning, working all day and then getting home late at night and going to bed and doing it all over again. So that's not conducive to living a healthy lifestyle. Um, yes, making that change was a lot, but it was the best change that I ever made. Living in New York, living at the time I was living on the Upper West Side and I was working out in Jersey City. So I would take the subway and the path. And that just changed my whole life. It also allowed me to, since I was not commuting 4 hours each day, it also allowed me to start exercising more and paying more attention to my health and eating well and not eating out so much anymore. Living in New York, I was able to have access to wonderful foods, of all kinds. I got involved with CrossFit, which became my passion, and that was another catapult to taking my health to the next level. The other thing that I did when I after I moved into the city was I decided to become a certified health coach through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And most of that was so that I could learn because they talk a lot about chronic illness, health and wellness and chronic illness. And so a lot of that was to learn about myself and how to take care of my body and how to fuel it properly. I was really committed and on a journey to becoming healthy physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So that's kind of where it started.
Chronic illness will do that to you. It will, you can either, sit on the sofa and give up, or you can take a turn. How, if you had to balance that once again, I think I know you had a great team in New York City because I think we talked about them when you were on the show before and how, it was a long haul, but you were coming through the illness. How do you balance that with spiritual and mental well-being? How much importance do you place on all of that?
I would say I placed equal importance on each area. You can't have one without the other. You need to take care of your body, your mind, your soul. And that's all part of wellness. So I would say equal parts.
Yeah. CrossFit. That's how I kept in touch with Cheryl, vicariously through Facebook. And she was always on a machine or running a marathon or doing something. I go, well, I guess she's gotten a lot better because we were at the point where she was, still taking all the medicine to get her where she got to go. How did CrossFit, and I think it still does, but how did CrossFit, you said it changed your life dramatically. How did it do that?
Yeah, CrossFit is not for the weak of heart. Although I'll caveat that with, anybody can do CrossFit, but CrossFit helped me not only get back into shape physically, it tested me physically, it tested me mentally. There are movements and workouts that are not easy, and I love that physical and mental test. It also forced me to really start eating better and fueling my body better. Because you can't work out to that intensity without fueling your body in the way that it needs to be fueled. So, not eating lots of junk food. You know, it was so I started eating more whole foods and less processed foods. And in doing that, not only did I see the change in my body physically, but as I, continued doing all of my lab work, which I did a couple times a year, I saw changes in my blood work and in a very positive way. And that was kind of the catapult for me to like, this is working. This is really, it's making me healthy. It's helping me stay in remission and combat something that, a lot of people can't combat. And a lot of people don't realize that it's the food and it's the fuel and it's, the mental, spiritual wellness.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with your analysis of CrossFit because some of the stuff you were doing on Facebook is like, how on earth is she doing that? I am at the tippy toe stage. I'm at the stage, okay, tentatively, I think I can do this and I think I can do that, but don't push it, and I don't want to undo anything I've done. What are some of the messages you told yourself? Because you just kind of, I won't say you jumped into it. I know it was a long journey, but what do you when that CrossFit elastic thing is killing your arm? What are you telling yourself to make you keep going and doing that?
So a lot of that is just sort of who I am. So I can't always go by that. But just to step back a minute on my like physical wellness journey, as I started to get better with the illness, I started doing things like just walking. You don't jump into CrossFit. When I was still living in Connecticut, I would just go for walks. Get the air in your lungs and get your body moving. When I moved into New York City, you're always walking, which is wonderful. And then you start going up and down stairs because you're going into the subways. So it's again, it was just like another step in the process. And as I started to lose a lot of weight, and really start to feel better about myself, I knew I wanted more. And that's kind of the way my brain works. I'm always like looking for that next step. And I'm not the kind of person that just likes to go in the gym and sit on the treadmill. I need something that really will challenge me physically and mentally. And when I moved into the city, there happened to be a CrossFit a block away from my house, a block away from my apartment. And I went in and I tried it, and it was scary. You're going up against a lot of people at the time, because it's changed a little bit, who were in their 20s and 30s, and they could just blow me out of the water. But it's about going in and doing what you're able to do. CrossFit is scalable. Anybody can do it. You can change the movements so to match your physical ability. And that's what I always had to remember. And it was hard because again, you're in a room full of 20 and 30-year olds who are just blowing out all kinds of weight and doing box jumps, and I couldn't do any of that. And I also credit the coaches because they met me where I was at, and they really helped me take small steps. So it's about taking small steps. You can't just jump into a major change and think that you're going to be successful at it.
Thank you. That makes me feel a little better because that's where I am. I'm the small step, maybe medium steps now, but I'm very cautious. But since we're talking so much about it, what is the concept behind CrossFit? Is it that every body part is fit, or what's the concept behind it?
So CrossFit is about total wellness, right? It's about food, it's about fuel, it's about managing one of CrossFit's biggest messages, which they don't talk about, kind of in the gyms, but a lot of their seminars are focused on managing chronic illness. And, so that was one of the drivers for me because it was something that I believed in. And it's just about total body, mind, spirit wellness.
Yeah, and to be clear, as we're talking about balance, you still have a medical team that you rely on, and and I know you have not only are you involved in CrossFit, I also saw you biking around up here, and I think I see you on Facebook again, biking down there, so you're getting your own exercise in, but yeah, I think the blend of and it's. I don't want to say it's trial and error, but there's a lot of gut instinct that comes with it. I think that when you're in the middle of a chronic illness or when you're in the middle of a setback, it's hard to go, oh, my gut is telling me when you have all these medical professionals saying, no, no, do this, take this pill, this is the one for you. It's kind of hard to work that muscle. How did you work that muscle? Because I know you rely a lot on what your body tells you.
I do. And I was very fortunate. My doctors at Columbia were very supportive of me. And he did not he did not push unnecessary medicine on me.
Mm.
I also became so familiar with, I studied my blood work. I understood, because I had lots of tests done all the time, and I studied the results. I understood what they meant, and I managed a lot of it through food. So, for example, if I had my blood work done and my potassium levels were high, I generally knew it was because I was probably eating too many bananas. And so I would have a conversation with my doctor, and rather than put me on medication, I would say to him, "Give me a few months, let me manage this, and let's see if I can work it out." And I would come back a few months later, and I would do my blood work, and my potassium levels would be low because I, cut down the amount of bananas I was eating. And so he trusted me, and we had a very trusting relationship. And He actually told me at one point when I had decided to run the New York City Marathon, I had gone to him first and I said, I just want to make sure that I am not taxing my body too much. What's your perspective about me running the marathon, training for and running the marathon? And he said, I don't, and this is a very well-respected doctor at Columbia, and he said, I don't know what to tell you. He goes, none of my patients have ever come to me with that. He said, you're an anomaly. um, so we worked together, during that time. He did, he saw me a little bit more often just to make sure that my blood, my blood test results were still in a good place. And we managed it together. So I was very fortunate that my doctor allowed me to manage it through food.
Rare, very rare.
Very rare. Yes.
Yeah. So hallelujah. I would just tell people that's where I hope I'm not. I would tell people that's where I trust my gut. It's like if I meet a doctor and we're not clicking, it's like why would we go any further? It's like I've done this with a couple of doctors, and it's like not saying they're not good doctors. It's just if we don't we he, you're putting together a team. You're putting together a team for your well-being, and you get to interview them. You don't have to just go in and do whatever they say. You get to interview them, and you get to say, "Hey, this coincides with my philosophy." I would never expect to find a doctor that says, "Yeah, yeah, eat a banana." No, I have. That's not true. I've had low potassium, and I do have doctors who go, "Eat more bananas." But I would never expect to find a doctor who goes, yeah, you can do this through food. The fact that you found one, hallelujah. But it doesn't hurt to do that research on the side so you can supplement what the traditional doctor's telling you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about taking control of your health. Doctors know medicine and we need doctors. There's no doubt about that. But you have to take control of your health and wellness.
So, with all this help, what have you done with it? Because why are you in Florida? It's like, how did all this happen? And what, again, big changes. Where do you get the courage to do this?
So a lot has happened in 10 years. Um, we went through COVID in 2020, and I had moved out to Jersey City for a short period of time. And I always knew I wanted to come back to New York, and I wanted to live and work in New York again. So towards the end of COVID, I moved back into New York City, and I started looking for a job. And my plan was to work in New York City. I wanted to live and work there, and I was very happy there. And while I was looking for a job, life happens. I had a recruiter, reach out to me through LinkedIn for a job in Florida. And it was in South Florida, and my son and his family live in South Florida. And he had been bugging me to move down there since he moved down, 7 years earlier. And I always told him, if I found the right job, I would move to Florida, but otherwise, I'm never leaving New York City. That was my plan. And this job came up, and it was kind of a dream for me. It took my career to the next level, and I interviewed for it, and I was made an offer. And next thing I knew, I was moving down to Florida. So it was, moves are huge, right? And I knew that while Florida wasn't always the first place on my list that I wanted to move to, I always knew that at some point I would move out of New York City as much as I didn't want to. But, I had gotten a golden retriever and I wanted a different life for her. And so I knew that at some point I would move somewhere. I thought I was going to end up probably in New Jersey, but it didn't happen that way. But the move down to Florida, I was very reluctant in the beginning because I was never truly a Florida person. I've had family down here most of my life, but I never came down very much. And, I moved down here and, you have to be open to the possibilities because life here has been a transformation that I never expected in a great way. Not only I'm a very outdoor person, so it has allowed me to live an outdoor lifestyle all year long. Maybe not so much in the summer, but the rest of the year I'm outdoors. The other major thing that happened for me that I never expected was I got doctors down here to help manage and monitor my health. Ironically, the doctor that I have down in Miami was used to be a student of my doctor in New York City,
Ah,
and she's just as wonderful as he was. But I actually went to see her and we did my blood work recently. And she looked back at my blood work from the time I moved here at the end of 2022 till now. And she said, I've just done yet another complete transformation. My levels are about as close to normal as they're going to get. And, it's again about living a healthy lifestyle. And I never in a million years expected it. So you have to embrace the unknown. And I think that's one thing that I've always tried to do when making change is, knowing that there's got to be something great on the other side.
that's fantastic because I remember when you were going down there and Cheryl decided she was going to drive because of the lovely golden retriever that she has. And she drove to Florida with a sick dog. I think every step of the way.
Yeah, yeah. She was hospitalized when I got here.
Oh no, I didn't realize that. But yeah.
Yeah, she
So
was.
so flexibility for me, I would have to fight the feeling that, oh my God, this is a sign. I have made such a big mistake here. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. So whereas you are thinking, okay, this is a little hill, and there's something on the other side. Is that what you're thinking? Something cool?
Yes, but your thinking is not, there's nothing wrong with your thinking. I just had this conversation with a friend of mine because she moved down here from New York City right after I did. And she's thinking about going back. And, we had that same conversation about how she feels like maybe she made a mistake. In my mind, there is no mistake. It's a choice. You make a choice to move someplace, and if it doesn't work, you go someplace else. It's very easy. There's no mistake. In the meantime, you've had the experience and opportunity of living in a place or spending some time in a place that you may never have chosen otherwise. So, in my mind, there's no mistakes.
Well, I think, yeah, the other signs I would see would be that one, you found a good doctor. Oddly enough, the student of the doctor that you adored up here. Two, this job. That was what a sign. This job, and oh, I'm going to be closer to my son and grandson. It's like that would be a sign for me. So I guess again, we're talking balance. It's like you have to kind of weigh it out. It's like, oh. My last move was, and it was many, many years ago, was from one apartment on my floor down the hall to the other, and I was totally exhausted forever. And I'm going, this should not be this hard, but it was. So to pick up and take an entire life and bring it down to Florida, I have to give you kudos for that one because I know that was a big thing. What are some of the big lessons that you've learned in this past 10 years? Listen, I won't give you the whole lifetime. Just give me in the past 10 years. What would you say are some of the lessons you've learned?
Oh, the big lessons that I've learned. Um, when it comes to making change, I've learned that you have to first of all, change doesn't happen alone. You have to surround yourself with people that care about you, really great people. Um, that's been super important. I think every major change that I've made, I have had my sort of team of people, whether they're friends or family, therapists, coaches,
Mm.
to just talk through all of the things that go through your head. Um, the other thing that I've learned is, it's while you're surrounding yourself with other people, with great people, also don't let them project their fears on you. And this is something that's very sort of subconscious that people do. They don't mean to do it. They mean very well, but you could there were many people that I talked to about moving to Florida, and they were like, "Oh my goodness, why are you doing that? That's crazy. You're going to go down to Florida." And so what they're doing is they're projecting their fears onto me.
Mm.
Um, So, so I try to balance that where I love to get feedback from other people, but then I take it and I kind of retreat and I process and analyze all of that information and make those decisions. Um, again, I also believe that change is growth, and there's no growth that is bad or is a mistake. I think that regardless of what decision you make, you learn and you grow from it. Things didn't turn out perfect for me in Florida. I had bumps and bruises along the way, but it's a time to sit back and reflect and okay, what does this mean for me? What do I need to change? What could I have done differently? So, life doesn't always work out perfectly. And the other thing that I've learned too, and it's really only been since I've been in Florida, is find your faith, whatever that looks like to you, whether you're a Christian or Jewish or, Buddhist, whatever that is, but find your faith and lean on that because it's really important. It's really important for the spiritual side of you.
It's so nice to hear an independent person like you who wants to do everything and then do more, say find your faith. Because there are times when you need your faith. There's times when you just have to go, you know what? I've done all I can. I'm gonna hang in there and see what happens. We have like 90 seconds left here, believe it or not. And we knew we were gonna overtalk, but
Yeah.
for your coaching in wellness. Did you use that specifically for you? I know you have dreams how you're going to use it, and we're not going to jinx it by talking about it, but in the future. But did you do anything with that besides, advance your own health?
I use it in my everyday, just working and
Yeah,
managing people. I coach people all the time. And, so those skills that I learned many years ago have been invaluable to me. It changes the way that I manage people. It changes the way that my relationship with my children. So it's been a wonderful tool that, I use not only, I learned it for me and I use it for everyone else.
perfect, perfect. And I've always said, no matter what you do, as long as you have some coaching skills, you're going to do it better. So, Cheryl, it has been. I'm so glad we still keep in touch. It is, and I have a time trying to keep up with you, but it's, but I've managed to do it so far. Thank you so much for being on the coaching game and for sharing how you have courageously and dynamically moved the needle so far to the positive side. Thank you so much, Cheryl Friscia.
Thank you. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.